corporations are about making profits. That's what they're about. They're about making revenues. They have a responsibility to their shareholders to make money. So the point here is what we have are these mammoth institutions, these mammoth organizations that are authoritarian in their internal structure, that possess enormous wealth and enormous power over the conditions in the cities and towns and states and countries where they operate, which comes down to they have enormous power in controlling and determining the conditions of the everyday lives of people all around the world. But they have no accountability to the people, to the populations, to the countries, to the towns, to the cities, to ensure that those conditions are good and in the interests of the population, because the system has created these monster institutions that by their nature, they become incredibly powerful, but also by their nature, they are psychopathic in their exclusive pursuit of self-interest. So this is an incredibly dysfunctional way of approaching things. There's not much we can do about the internal logic of how corporations function. That's the model that they have. We're not talking about overthrowing corporations or taking corporations apart, although there's certainly an argument to be made about whether or not incorporation itself is a rational thing to allow. But it is what it is. And this is our approach, and as you said, it's a pragmatic, strategic approach. We don't believe in collapsing or overthrowing any power structure, regardless of what form it is. We believe in strategizing to ensure that whatever power structure we're talking about is responsible to the population and responsive to the population, and not exclusively self-serving. So that the onus is upon us to try to figure out how we can utilize whatever the internal logic is of that power structure, that institution. In this case, we're talking about corporations, the most powerful non-state actors, political actors in the world. How do we navigate the internal logic of those institutions to include in their logic serving the public and trying to better represent and reflect the values of the population and the interests of the population? That's what is meant by corporate democratization. America came up with a really brilliant, ingenious way to completely circumvent the democracy that they committed themselves to on paper, by saying, okay, we'll say on paper that we have this democracy and that it's a government of, for, and by the people and so forth, but power won't be with the government. Actual, real existing power will belong to the private sector, where there's no democracy whatsoever and no one gets to vote for that. So that it ends up coming down to whoever you vote for, the right or the left, the Republicans or the Democrats, all you're doing is electing who will get to serve the interests of the private sector. We need to organize, and we need to mobilize, and we need to strategize on how we can impose democratic accountability, making these institutions responsive to the public, accountable to the public, so that they will serve the interests of the public and act and use their power in ways that reflect our values. That's the core idea behind corporate democratization.